Hello, this is Aaron Sawatsky with the Byproducts team at American Crystal. In this video, we are going to cover specifically the bidding process and the bidding sections on the new electronic forms for 2024-2025. You can see the screen here. You've completed about 24% of the form already up to this point, and now you've got to the bid sections. So everything before this was basically revolving around the standard agreement. We can look back if you want to and see these are the factories that you wanted to purchase byproducts from and the byproducts you wanted to purchase. One thing I wanted to make sure you know is that if you're going to bid at a factory for pulp or tailings, you should have that factory selected here. That's important. Now let's look at this specifically on the bidding itself. You can choose to bid on press pulp or not. If you select no, I don't want to bid on press pulp, I'd rather bid on tailings. That will take you directly to the tailings section. If you want to bid on press pulp though, that will trigger the next part of the form. This is identical for the pulp and tailings bidding process. They are mirror images of each other, so everything that I'm going to cover in the press pulp is applicable to the tailings as well. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is select a factory that you want to place bids at. Now you can select multiple factories and you can bid at multiple places, but that's the first key. You have to bid on at least one factory. The next thing we're going to do is ask you to rank the factory bid priority, 1 being the highest rank, 4 being the lowest. You should not bid 2 factories the same number, so every factory needs only 1 ranking. So if you bid at all 4 factories, it'd be 1 through 4. In this case, I bid Moorhead 1, Hillsboro 2, Crookston 3, and East Grand Forks 2. But if I or 4, excuse me, if I was at East Grand Forks, maybe I'd bid that one 1, Crookston 2, Hillsboro 3, and Moorhead 4. So it's really up to you on how you want to rank the factories. If you've selected only 3 of these, you only have to rank 3 of these. If you only select 1, only rank 1. It's pretty self-explanatory with 1. All we're trying to understand is if bid price comes to be a factor on where your bid is accepted, we want to know what factory you would prefer it at the most. So let's move on at the next section. This is getting at a very difficult topic for us administratively to understand in your bids. So we're trying to answer a question. When we receive bids, a lot of times people bid at multiple factories. Now we don't know if the intent of that is to have all those bids accepted or to only have one of those bids accepted at the highest rank. So this is what that question is going to get at. So you can bid at multiple factories, but then the question really becomes, do you want to accept them if there is product available at your bid price to accept at those factories? So if the answer is no, you can still enter multiple bids. We just know that we are only going to accept the highest ranked one. However, if you were to select yes here, that would mean that we want to accept bids at multiple factories if you've placed bids at multiple factories. We're going to select no for this example in press pulp. We'll cover the yes scenario in tailings. So the next one is total tons. Now this is really important that we understand how many total tons you want. And this is again in an effort to better understand the bids placed at multiple factories. So the total tons that you bid, we're going to give you 2 examples. We're going to give you the first one as a buyer that bids 500 tons at 4 factories, but only wants 500 total tons. In this case, the total tons bid should equal 500 because that's how many total tons the buyer wants. And then at that point, the bid price and rank will determine where those bids are accepted. So because we have selected, we don't want bids at multiple or accepted at multiple factories, but we're still placing bids at multiple factories. We're going to indicate in the previous question, no, and then that kind of helps us understand how we're going to place our bids. The total in this case, let's say, is 1,000 tons that I want as a buyer. There's another section here called the minimum monthly quantity. That is simply the total tons bid divided by 9. And that represents the number of months from September through May, which is our preferred bidding period that the contracts will be valid for. So the next section is the bids themselves. Now, this is where it all comes together. For press pulp, we want to mention that there is a minimum bid price of $5. Just keep that in mind. Now, following up on our total tons, we wanted 1,000 total tons. We selected that we didn't want to have a bid accepted at multiple factories. So let's look at how this all comes into fruition here. I'm going to bid just $5 for this example at every location since we are bidding at all 4 sites. And I wanted that 1,000 tons. So I'm going to put 1,000 tons at every location, knowing that only one of these bids is going to be accepted at the highest ranked factory that's available to me. Another thing I want to mention here is when you're placing these bids, please put them in a format like this. Do not add a $sign. It's just nice on the formatting side of things that we know what this represents and we can keep everything consistent. So that's all that there is to bidding in that fashion for press pulp. Now let's go on to tailings. You can again select no for tailings and then you would go directly onto the site suitability portion of the form. But for example, we want to bid on tailings to show you the other side of bidding at multiple factories. So again, it's identical to the press pulp. We're going to say which factories you want and how you want them ranked. In this case, we are selecting yes, I want to bid at multiple factories. My total tons, we're going to keep those the same just for the purpose of these examples so you can see how they differ. And the total minimum monthly quantity is the same. That's 1,000 divided by the 9. And also, I mentioned that just round that to the nearest number. You don't need to put a decimal place. We don't need to be that exact. So on the tailings bid, the minimum bid price at Morehead is $5. All others are 0. The bid price format is 0.00. There's no $signs. Just keep that in mind, same as the press pulp. But in this case, we're going to look at example 2. This is what we're going to be looking at here. So we do want to have bids accepted at multiple factories. And because of that, we want that 1,000 tons kind of spread out, which means I bid the minimum bid at Morehead and I put 250 tons. I bid $2 at Hillsboro for 250 tons, $1 at Crookston for 250, and $0 at East Grand Forks for 250. That kind of follows my ranking, but as you can see, my total tons at 250 are going to add up to 1,000 tons. So that way, the American Crystal staff knows that you want 1,000 tons, but you want to have preferred status potentially and have those bids accepted at each one of these locations. And that'll help us out tremendously. So I hope that helps clear up some of the questions about bidding. Again, your total tons are important in that you're designating if you want them at multiple factories or not is also important for us to understand. If you have any questions, please call or email us at byproducts@crystalsugar.com.